Hey, what's up guys? The Guitar Gamer here. I've got another track guide for you. We're going to be at Oulton Park in the MX5. This is going to be for those other non-aliens out there. I've noticed a lot of times I'll use a track guide and it's somebody that's like with an elite time, and it's just so hard to replicate that. So I just wanted to put out this is a lap time that I'm consistently one of the faster cars in the practice lobbies. So I figured it'd be easier for a lot of people to follow and replicate. All I ask is if you find this helpful, just leave a like at the end of the video. It really helps a lot. So we're going into turn one here, the Old Hall corner. Going to shift up to fourth right before the turn in, and this sign here is going to be my reference. So we're going to go up quickly to about 50%, and then as soon as I get up to 50%, as soon as I start to trail off, I shift down to third, which helps rotate the car and keeps it from, I've noticed if you shift down too late, the car tends to spin out and get loose. So shift down to third, and then you'll continue to stretch out your trail. Make your way down to the apex here. And then you want to be powering through the apex. I try to get my right wheels right into this little brown patch here, but any further than that, it'll kick the car out too wide. If you're not fighting to keep the car on the track, you're not on the limit. You're not pushing, or you either don't have a late enough entry, or you're not pushing enough. So you can go wide here, just keep your right sides outside the white line. Going through Denton's, into the Cascades here. So as far as references, there's not much here. There's a little dip in the track. You can see the dip here. I try to brake right at the top of that dip. Up to about 40%. Trail it off quickly. Get on the throttle early. Take it wide. Go through Lakeside. Island Bend. This right here is going to be my reference site. Yeah, I was going to say that first gravel patch, but really this is it right here. Just get as wide as you can. Going to do a almost full lift down to about 10% on the throttle. Hold it. And then you're going to just you kind of just have to fill out the grip there as far as when to get back to 100%, but I try to get back to 100 no later than just as I'm coming over the end of the corner. Okay, setting up for the Shell Oils corner. As far as references go here, you can see there's you can see the line here goes, and then it kind of has a little bend there. So it goes that way, and then it starts to go straight. Right there where it starts to go straight, that's going to be my reference point. Up to 80%, quickly down to first, trail it off. You want to keep it down here as close to this curb as you can. And you see how quickly I'm at 100% throttle here. And the important thing is to use all the track limits here. You need to be all the way down to be able to get to 100 that quickly. Which is, I mean, you see it's very quickly to 100. And if you if you have this lined up right, you'll feel the car. You can even kind of see it when you're watching it. You'll feel the car kind of hook up. And you can see that as I come out here. You can tell just by looking at it. You can tell that it was easy. That there wasn't a lot of resistance. See there how the car's just naturally. That last little bit of turn right there really helps too to keep it from going wide. Going through 6 into 7, 8, and 9. There's not much here in the way of braking markers, but just as I start to turn in, you're going straight here, just as you start to turn in this way is when I start to get on the brakes. Up to about 76%. Trail it off just a little bit there at the end, and you're gonna get, I've noticed, you can see I'm early on about 60% power here. I've noticed that a lot of people spin out here, and what I've found that really helps is just as you're making this turn here, if you feel it start to kick out, if you give it about 40% throttle, 50%, it just seems to catch itself. And as long as you don't go to 100 too quickly, you can catch it at like 50% throttle, even if you feel like you're going to go wide. If you just keep it back down to about 50%, 40% throttle, it just seems like it's pretty easy to keep from going into the grass here or cutting the track. So you got a little loose there. Up to 100. Okay, going into 10 and 11, just before, a couple of car lengths before this 50 marker. This is like 2.5 car lengths. You can push it a little more than that, but it feels like the closer you get to that 50, the more of a gamble it is to whether or not you're going to make it. So I'm all the way up to 86% here. Slowly trailing it off. Get as close as you can to these tire barriers. 50% throttle, quickly to 100, then a quick lift down to about 5%, and about 10% brake just to help the car rotate here. Also get as close to the tire barrier as you can. Back to 100%, get it over to the left. Not much here as far as references go. Basically, once I get the car over to the left, I'm setting up for the turn, and I'll give it up just a tiny little stab of brake, about 10%, just enough to help the car get that little bit of extra rotation to keep me from going wide on exit. Throttling through the apex, second gear. I realize I'm not calling out the gears. I apologize about that, but I just, it's right there on the screen, so I figure you can see that. Keep it over to the left. As far as markers here for druids, this little green and yellow, or green and white section here is what I use. Up to about 50%, 55%. And you're quickly going to trail it off here, and the key to this one is getting on throttle as early as you can, because you can lose a lot of speed here by being overly cautious. So I get to 100 just as I get off that curb. Keep it inside, wide. Okay, going into Lodge corner 16. As far as brake markers go, once again, there's not much here. I'd say about 2 car lengths after this sign here, 2.5 car lengths. Up to about 80%. Same with most of these corners, you're trailing off pretty quickly, but with this one, you're actually going to hold that last little bit out longer because this is a longer corner. You have to be careful not to get onto throttle too early here, because you can spin out and you can go wide very easily. So that extra bit of trailing on the brakes really helps to avoid that happening as far as going wide, but just not getting too aggressive on the throttle will keep you from spinning. You see there, just that little bit, how I went to 60 before I went to 100. That right there, just to keep me from spinning. Use all the track limits. I try to tuck it over to the left here coming to the line. Alright, and then we'll play it once through without talking. briefly point out that when you shift down to first there, you need to do a little blip on the throttle. I didn't mention that. Right there, just that little bit. Alright, and there you have it, guys. If you found that useful, like I said, just leave a quick like and subscribe. For race trim with this, I would probably push just a little bit less, but you can get pretty close to that without completely burning your tires up. Anyhow, thanks for watching. You guys have a good one.